in the laws of anagrams, if you have a redundant letter, you can replace it with a missing letter, and you get Mobus.
Mm-hmm.
But in Nostradamus and the Antichrist, all of his other nicknames also make Mobus. Al-Muhajid was one of his nicknames. It's Majid that also spells into Mobus. Even the statement in one of the famous Antichrist prophecies about, in French, in English, it's one who will, the infernal gods of Hannibal will cause to be born, terror to all mankind. Bal Haman de Hannibal in French actually crunches down to Bin Laden, Osama bin Laden, spelling it with an I rather than a D-E-N. Which is phonetically fine because we're dealing, of course, with a name that originally is not written in Roman letters, Latin letters. So it's very important to get the correct pronunciation. For instance, when we say Osama, that's like saying American.
Yeah.
It's Usama.
Usama, yeah.
Yeah, Usama. And so his name is one of 4 key candidates I talk about in our contemporary times that fits the name Mobus. So the prophecy, which is Century 2, Volume 2, that is, Quatrain 62, says, Mobus very soon then will die. Then will come a horrible undoing of people and animals. At once one will see vengeance, 100 powers or nations, thirst, famine, when the comet will pass. Now, the one thing is clear in the Antichrist prophecies. The death of a significant candidate is far more important than the life, because unlike the first 2 Antichrists in Nostradamus' prophecies, which was Napoleon King, and Hitler, Mobus dies at the beginning. And how people handle the death, i.e., if they turn him into a myth by not properly proving he's dead, that is a potential problem because his war is supposed to last between 25 to 27 years.
And I would guess, John, that a lot of the militants in the Middle East probably think he's still alive.
Well, yes, but here's an interesting idea that I have not heard out there, and I think there might be some of this stratagem involved in Obama's thinking. I mean, I understand that they buried him at sea because you can't cremate a Muslim, and so that there is within Muslim Sharia law, Muslim mariners are buried at sea. That's one. They don't want to make a shrine.
If they die in the boat, they're buried at sea, but I don't think it says anything about burying someone who dies on land out to sea, do they?
It's odd. It doesn't directly say that in the Quran that I've read, and I've read the Quran, but it's like a lot of religious laws. There's loopholes.
They bend it.
But the thing is that his being, if they want to keep the myth alive that he's alive, they can't attack the United States. Because to attack the United States for someone who is not dead means he's dead.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing that's involved is it's very clear that Osama bin Laden planned for this. He, I think, was surprised that he lasted this long. He planned a martyr tape, a Shaheed video, that when... So this kind of also throws the Obama administration has thrown the ball into Al-Qaeda's court. If you are going to attack us, and actually be legally in Sharia law correct in doing this, and bin Laden, after his mistakes in 9/11, tried very hard to follow a better interpretation of what he thought of Wahhabi Sharia law, then they must release that tape to announce to sleeper cells anywhere in the world that this is the time to take the vengeance that this prophecy talks about. See,
could it be one of those tapes where people like record before they die so you can play it back to their relatives? One of those. Yeah.
He already made the tape.
Yeah.
He's probably years old even. And in it he was going to tell what they're to do to take revenge and continue jihad. So in both cases, the initiative is to Al-Qaeda to, if they attack, it means he's dead. If they have to do the tape, it means that the Obama administration will probably not need to prove that he's dead. Al-Qaeda's response, I predict, will prove that he's dead.
Well, that's a good point. Do you think, though, they're making a mistake not releasing photographs, not maybe showing the body had they still had it?
It is a mistake because it's once again a misreading. It's a common theme that I've dealt with even 2 years before Barack Obama was president. I said that his destiny was to become president. I saw it as early as 2004 when he made his keynote speech for Kerry in the Democratic Convention.
And it was a great speech.
It was, and he was the Black Kennedy.
Yeah.
But unlike Kennedy, I wrote blogs about it, that Kennedy had a chance to actually run as vice president with Adlai Stevenson in 1956, and he was wise enough to see, as it turned out, that he wasn't ready, and so was the Democratic Party. My biggest fear about Barack Obama is that he would push his destiny too soon, come 4 years earlier than he was supposed to come, and really have a struggle with coming too soon to his destiny, which could actually ruin his destiny. And I've said on your show and written it over many years now that if he survives his first term and the mistakes of his first term, he could very well become a great president in his second term. And I say that as not a Barack Obama supporter. I did not vote for him. So this is, as much as that upsets some people to say it, that is a future that sometimes I get glimpses of that second-term future in the way he handled the initial attack and the planning and the announcement. But then he steps one step forward, two steps back into a complete mismanagement of the most important tool that Osama bin Laden has is the weapon of myth.
Yes.
And now he's feeding Osama bin Laden's myth rather than dispelling it with the death mask of a dead potential Antichrist candidate.
He's getting more exposure now in his apparent death, or lack of, than he did over the last several years.
And it shocks me because I actually, as I have my work, I have to read a lot of very strange people. I've had to read Mein Kampf. I actually have read a lot of what Osama bin Laden has said because that's how you get to know your enemy.
That's right.
You read them, you see how they think, and it always surprises me. I'm sure there's a lot of people in CIA that are bouncing off the walls wishing someday the officials of the government would actually listen to what they're saying, because I know they know what I know, that there are certain things you anticipate, and one of the things is you don't feed the myth. Well, Leon Panetta was actually wanting the photos released.
He thought they were going to be released.
Yeah. So there's what that says to me when I see the mixed messages is that there's still a struggle going on in the administration to find the voice they need to give. That shows there's opposition going on this subject. And
I wanted to talk about some of the weather patterns. Maybe we'll do that next hour as we take calls too, because you've done a great job looking at predictions of 2010 and 11 with the good old Mother Nature. And of course, as we get into 2012, John, who knows what's going to happen, huh?
Well, it's something that probably the most powerful message I got through my oracle work in the last 2 years was this anticipation of a literally, well, I had to use it metaphorically. I don't mean it literally, but it's kind of there. It's almost like Mother Nature has declared war on the abuse of human bad behavior against the earth, the climate, the natural balances. Now, that's a poetic way of saying that, we've reached a tipping point. By purely non-poetic means, it's just like I could wax poetic about fire burning at Fahrenheit 451, but in scientific terms, it bursts into flames when it's that hot. in the same way I can wax poetic to kind of gain people's attention metaphorically to this subject, but we're really speaking about something that is a huge planetary mechanism that has reached a point where it's tilting as a machine because something is in the works that needs to either be moderated or thrown out. And we've become that problem. And so I got this vision in end of 2009, and I started talking about how there would be this appeasement that was similar in climate change issues with the Copenhagen Accords, which actually had happened a month after I was writing it. I basically said in predictions for 2010 what the Accords would do, which was absolutely nothing, and they would be the new Chamberlain and Daladier, only they're not debating Czechoslovakia with Adolf Hitler and Mussolini. They're debating their future on this planet by pacifying and appeasing those who do not want to make the effort to balance our place on this planet. And what would happen in response, right immediately after Copenhagen, would be a tsunami of temperature rises that had never been seen, which did happen in 2010. It was the hottest year after the hottest year in record in 1998. Right. Despite the blizzards, which I also said blizzards are Mother Nature's cold chills. You know, enjoy the snow while you can. In 20 years from now, you will not have the snow. There's still enough coldness in the atmosphere to bump into the subtropical or the higher moisture in the air that's happening from climate change to create these dramatic blizzards that we had, 7 in a row, 1 a week after Christmas into 2011. I also talked about that there, and I wrote, I said in 2011 there will be a major tsunami in the Pacific Ocean, and that happened.
It sure did.
Yeah, and so we are, the Earth's atmosphere is heating up. It is putting us into the real issue, I think, that will take the economy down is not what we do in our casino economy, because we can always change the rules of our casino. But if a tornado hits your casino, all your rules of economy are not going to do anything about it. And in a way, the human mindset in its global economy is playing casino while the storms are rising on Mother Earth. And it needs to be addressed. And we need to look at this as something even more serious than Adolf Hitler, Mussolini, and Imperial Japan in World War II. This is Mother Nature's World War III against our stupidity. And it could indeed, with the breakdown in food prices, these things I anticipated. I said that 2011 would be the year of alarm bells sounding the unsustainable. And that's the final chapter of the book, which, by the way, is an e-book that people can buy at HoagProphecy.com, my website. It talks about, I said, the first alarm bell, food. You would see an uptick in food prices that could trigger social unrest in the world.
So right about that, John. Hold on, we're gonna come right back with you, John, in just a moment. Already at the top of the hour. I'm George Norrie, back in a moment on Coast to Coast AM.